Hi everybody, welcome to my second home, or sometimes my first home, the Royal Montreal Golf Club, home of the 2024 President's Cup for the second time. The only other club that hosted the President's Cup multiple times is Royal Melbourne and now Royal Montreal. One of the original 66 Royal clubs around the world and the oldest golf club in North America. Something that, being a part of it, I've been here for 25 years, and the club has only been around for 150 years, so that's actually quite a bit of time. And so very, very, very happy to be here with my friend Calvin. What is your title again?
VP of Product.
VP of
Citrix,
Products.
yeah.
Yes, he's a smart guy at Citrix, and Citrix being one of the company that shaped my personal life and career, and also the biggest partner of my business. Very, very happy for you to be here.
Thank you, Todd. Thanks for having me. This is terrific.
Yeah, and we have a wonderful day, and it's. I don't think we can pick any better day to be out here today. So, I was kind of worried actually. I was kind of worried because this time of the year we're shooting this in first week of May, so you don't know what the weather is going to be like. But
well, me too, because I'm coming from South Florida, so I'm thin blood. I was worried it would be cold, but this is a beautiful day out here.
Yeah, for sure. So we're very, very excited. Ferroque Systems is a proud sponsor of the 2024 President's Cup. We have sponsored a wonderful hospitality product, the tent that we're gonna be able to enjoy the competition, and obviously Citrix Systems is going to be a very important part of it, and having Calvin here to kind of scout out the location.
Preview, right?
It's fun.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously that you have had a wonderful career in the technology, and just like I'm so proud of this, being a member of this club. I think that you're also very proud of what you have accomplished. So talk about how you got into the business and the journey.
Yeah, sure. So this is actually a milestone year for me. This is my 20th year at Citrix. And you talk about spending a lot of time at Royal Montreal. I spent a lot of time growing up, basically, in Citrix with my colleagues, with friends like you and partners. I actually, on the 20th year, having the time to reflect back all the way to the beginning and thinking about how did I get into Citrix, where did I come from? And I was in a storage software company before Citrix. Fantastic group of people. But when I was looking for my next step in the career, I was like, I want to get out of the back room of the data center, sort of the dark areas of the data center where storage is, and get closer to the users, get closer to the use cases, the customers, the revenue generating, the value generating aspect of the customers. And so that's what led me into Citrix. And the career here has paid off in spades. I can say that for sure. Having met with so many customers, that's the biggest fun for me, is to hear how they're using the product, help them explore different ways to use the product, take their feedback, improve what we're doing, work with the partners to make sure it gets implemented in the right way, and all that chain of value, through end user computing, which has evolved into that name over time. But that's exactly why I got into it, is because I wanted to be involved in something that really had meaning. And then through my career, I think multiple times taken the chance and the opportunity that the company has given me to do new things, right? So we started with terminal services, and at the time I joined in 2004, mostly application publishing. And a few years later, VDI became the big thing, and that was, while a lot of the value was the same, the whole underlying infrastructure was totally different, right? So that was like a revelation. And then we started what we later became the Citrix Service Provider Program, working with service providers, doing things more subscription-based, as a service, renewable kind of services, and that started our cloud transformation, which happened a few years later after that. And then, there was actually a kind of period of time there, I'd say, in the sort of 2012, 2014, where quite honestly, maybe we lost our way a little bit, right? We started looking for those other opportunities, thinking, okay, we've done that for a couple of decades now, and what does the future have for things like virtualization for VDI and published apps? And then lo and behold, you have a global pandemic, everybody has to go home, people rediscover that this technology is actually incredibly vital again.
Yeah, I always say this technology, Citrix is like a cat with 9 lives. Every time you think that you killed it, it came back to be more relevant than ever, right?
Every year somebody predicted the death of Citrix, right?
Yeah.
And every year we'd prove them wrong.
Yeah.
And then pandemic. Hard to say, the pandemic was a good thing, but it was certainly an awakening for people about what the technology is and why they need it.
Right.
And I think we're now
accelerated
that.
Yeah, accelerated adoption for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. And so you talk about a lot of history, and we talked about. I kind of touched on the history. Royal Montreal Golf Club has been around for 150 years, since 1873, right? So. We just celebrated a 150-year anniversary, and Citrix kind of created the EUC business from 1989, right? Technically, and really became the leader of it, since then, right? And it's de facto number one. It is still today. As we draw parallels to an old historical place like here, and a game of golf is also a very history and tradition focused game. Like, why? And I believe this, so I want to hear from you. Is why is history and tradition important in the field of technology? Because contrary to a lot of people might think that technology is something always new. Something has to be something that no one have ever seen before, but reality is that I think that we're really seeing the movie being played over and over and over again, right? So, what do you think about this?
No, I couldn't agree more. I think every once in a while, and we've tried to do this as well. You try to reinvent yourself, or think, do you have to blow things up to start over again, or that's old stuff and we just need to stop doing that and start something else, right? And I think drawing that parallel with golf, I think it's a great point. Even we were talking about the course earlier, right? Like, you make renovations, you update it, you make sure that it meets the modern needs, but you don't take the whole course and just move it somewhere else, right? You don't start over completely. You take the basis of what you've got and you just update it, and you make sure that it evolves from one thing into the other. I think one of the things that people, or even us internally, I would say, when we kind of went through some transformations of our own and maybe lost our way with a couple of customers, I think we have to keep our focus on is the idea that there's the tradition, call it legacy, if you will. And sometimes in tech, legacy has a bad connotation.
Right.
But it's the reality, right?
Right.
It's what's gone before is still here.
Mm-hmm.
Often it's not going anywhere.
Right.
So you have to incorporate that into what you're doing, whether that is on-prem to cloud, or doing hybrid in both, or that's legacy Windows applications and new SaaS applications. You have to think about what that transition looks like and bring the two things together rather than just blow it up and start over again, because it doesn't work for customers. It doesn't work in a real enterprise environment.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that if you peel back and look inside of a lot of things, you realize that stuff that you thought that was only being used 30 years ago is still there, right? In a lot of technology or things that we do today.
We always joke about how many times you still see mainframe systems still sitting there in the background. They don't go anywhere because they do their job and they're important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that being said, like this course, although that has all the histories and all the accolades, in order to adapt to the modern game, it went through some serious transformation, right? In 2007, we redid it. We actually closed the course for 2 seasons, 9 hole per season. So we got the President's Cup in 2000 and officially in 2004. 2005 and 6, both seasons we have 9 holes, half of the course closed to be redone. And that was to really adapt to the game. We went from 6,800 yard course to 7,200, right? Added 400 yards to the course, and we did some greens where that is just plain out evil, like I said earlier. It's because that they know the game has changed, and new generations of players, needed a better challenge. So they adapt to the change, and then they also did it again for this year's cup, right? They added new bunkers, redid some tee boxes, added more length in order for it to relate to today's player.
I'm glad you said the new generation of players, because I know I'm not getting any longer.
No.
I'm losing distance every year.
No, actually the funny thing was that when they redid it in 2007, they did number 4. Number 4 was a long hole already, and that was the first time we have a 500 plus yard par 4 in 2007 Cup, right? They redid number 4 into a 515 yard par 4.
Wow.
And in 2007, I was able to hit driver and a 3-wood onto the green, and I don't think we're going to try from that.
Yeah, that tells you did it in 2007. You still remember it.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think about adaptation of for a technology company, or us all in tech, right? Either that we're in the technology services consulting business, or as a technology vendor innovator. Like, what do you do to adapt?
Right. What
for
guides that
changes?
transformation?
Yeah.
Right? I think you said it in talking about the changes that have happened here. It is all about listening to the players, listening to the membership, right, and adapting to what their needs are. Watching how they play it. I know, my home course has gone through a couple of renovations as well, and that was the first thing they did, was they collected all the data on who was hitting from where, how long the course was for them, what their playing experience was like. And I think the same thing holds true for any transformation, and in our world in technology, especially in end user computing, right? So you got to look at, again, the customers, their use cases. How are they adapting to the transformation of applications from Windows to SaaS? How are they adapting to their needs from on-prem data centers to cloud-based or multi-cloud based? But it doesn't happen because
I think that was a perfect example, because a few years ago, I think all the technology company has this big push. So you got to go to the cloud. You got to go to the cloud for everything, right? Yep. And then when we really sit down and listen to our customers, they realize that no, you got to maintain the hybrid multi-cloud strategy, because no one's going to put all the eggs in one basket up in the cloud, right? For one guy, right? It's going to be a mix of everything, and you have to actually make that mix of everything work well, and which is where I think Citrix's any philosophy always stand true. Yeah. Because that was always the model of the company, and you always have technologies that can work in any provider, any platform, any protocol, any network, any type of conditions that you're going to be working on, and all these things holds true.
Well, when you make that the central focus of your strategy, it's different than doing it sort of begrudgingly, right?
Correct.
And I like to say, we always had the any, but to me it's any, always. It's not just a transitory state. It's not like I've got all this multitude of things and I'm trying to standardize. That's just the reality. Just deal with it and accept that as a core part of your strategy, a core part of our technology strategy, and that'll make the road forward a lot more clear.
Yeah.
Right? And so just to kind of wrap up on it, I think we have to listen to the customers. That's a big focus of the current state of the company. And like, we don't just build something because the engineers want to build it, right? Like the architects out here don't, just because it's fun to design a par 5, they don't make every hole a par 5, right? That would just be unrealistic and not good for the overall experience. So that interconnectivity, the feedback from you as partners, the feedback from your customers, extremely important right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yes, so, I was telling people a joke. I told you like earlier, not a joke, it's actually a real thing. It's in 2007, my kids was born the week before the President's Cup, and I somehow convinced my wife that's like one of the once of lifetime my experience of be able to be inside of the ropes with Tiger Woods, which I did, and I was able to walk inside the rope on 17 blue when Mike Weir caught him to tie the Weir actually made the birdie putt to tie Tiger Woods after being down 2, and I was able to witness how Weir ended up beating Woods on the final hole, and such a special moment, and I was trying to convince my wife that was once a lifetime, and when this cup is coming back, my wife actually told me, I thought that was once a lifetime, but it ended up not once a lifetime. But
I can guarantee you won't see Tiger Woods and Mike Weir playing on the going down to 18.
No, exactly. But which is where that leading to my next question is that we all want to predict the future, and sometimes the future is not predictable. But because I didn't think that this will come back in my lifetime, and it does. And what is your point of view as being a technologist for the last 20 years in the EUC business? What is, or in Ferroque we call it the EUI, the end user infrastructure business, because you're providing the end user computing, but us as a partner we're providing all the rest of the infrastructure and expertise to make this happen, right? So, in your point of view, what is the future holds for our industry?
A few different things. I think one, now that we have really centered ourselves around hybrid multi-cloud and making that a core central part of the strategy, there is a wealth of innovation and requirements that are based around that, right? Because I think when people hear hybrid multi-cloud, they're in a customer environment, maybe they're kind of forced into it just by the realities of the business, or they acquired somebody, they're using a different cloud than you're using, and it just sounds like, complexity, right? And I think the job of a vendor like Citrix is to figure out, if that's our strategy, then how do you make hybrid multi-cloud operationally efficient? How do you make it cost effective? How do you make it a great admin experience, ultimately a great end user experience? And so I think that's what we need to work on, one of the fundamental things we have to work on. And so no matter where you're deploying, no matter where your control plane is, it all snaps together just like a service, right? And so there's a long runway of things that have to happen there. I think the plurality of devices that people are using is only increasing, right? From different form factors, from now foldable phones that almost look like tablets, and tablets that almost look like PCs, and PCs that are more mobile and laptop oriented than ever. So there's a lot of fundamental innovation that has to happen around the different experiences that people have across those. And then thirdly, I think as you say, a technologist, at this point in time in 2024, I can't have a talk without discussing AI at some point.
Sure.
So I think the impact that it has both on how you manage a Citrix infrastructure, or that EUI, that's going to be a huge part of it, making that simpler, making it more reliable, consistent, best practice, guided, quicker. But then also, as more and more end users start to adopt it into their computing experience, what does that mean for how they authenticate? How do they go from one resource to another? Where can LLMs traverse one application to another? Do I allow this to cut and paste into another application? Do they share information back and forth? Right? Those are all problems that have yet to be solved, and will be a key part of EUC, or I'll take EUI as the term for the next few years for sure.
Yeah, for sure, and of course that in any business, there's always disruptions and disruptors that are coming up, and we in our business definitely is. And the funny thing is that I tell people this has never been so similar, right? The game of golf today and the EUC business today, it's actually really, really similar. That there's some big disruptions happening right now, right? The game of golf is being
fractured, really.
Yeah, fractured, right? That with how a big private equity comes in. Sound familiar, right? That decided they want to get into the game, right? So same as the EUC business. Actually, in fact, that there's two, right? You got Broadcom that came in on VMware.
Yep.
You got Vista that came in for Citrix, and
don't forget Elliott.
Yeah, Elliott, KKR. That's right. Everybody got into the game, right? It's and I think it actually causes a divide in fans, like game of golf, right? You got people like, I want the traditions, I want the PGA Tour. Those guys, that went to live wasn't real to their roots, and then they're like, well, they took the money. How can you say no to to $300 million, right? And in our technology business, in the EUC business, like you get all these equities that came in and kind of create all these chaos and making our consumers don't know what to do with with where they're going in the future. And what's your opinion on it?
Yeah, I think the similarities there are actually eerie, because when private equity comes in, and no fault of private equity, this is how they operate and how
Sure.
they help their own investors, but they see a back of the balance sheet opportunity, right? And they're focused on all that opportunity that was created during the pandemic, and the recognition that this technology is solid, mature in every kind of organization you can possibly imagine, and so that's what they see. But I think, like the PE impacts on golf, what they don't have a focus on is what is the customer experience, what is the fan experience like, right?
Yeah.
And so, as you and I were talking last night, as fans, now it's harder to watch the favorite players that you want to see, and now it's harder to follow along where are they in the world golf rankings, right, and that sort of thing. And so the only thing that we can do in this industry, and the only right thing, I think, is to continue to focus on what the customers want. Right?
Yeah.
As long as we keep delivering that, then hopefully the PE mission will be resolved. We'll be all successful in that regard. And but you can't lose sight of who really is the consumer, who is
Right.
who is the person that really matters at the end of the day. If nobody's buying the product, if nobody's watching the broadcast, then you don't have a game, you don't have a solution.
Yeah, I think that ultimately for us in our business, we need to focus back to the customers, listening, like you said, listening what they want, and then continue to deliver the best experience. The user experience being, being reasonable pricing, being something that fits the way that they want to consume, the product. I think that those things that has to come into that consideration. Just like the world of golf, where you got the traditionalists who wanted to have TV broadcasts and on cable, but the newer generation don't mind having it streamed on phones and devices, right? So, I think it takes a little bit of it takes a lot of education, a lot of and some tolerance and some patience.
That's a great point too. The other thing that strikes me is that as the whole industry has gone into more turmoil, what I have noticed amongst the people that are in it, right? It's a relatively tight-knit community of EUC people.
Yeah.
I feel like we've actually gotten closer in that regard, right? I remember a few years ago, somebody would leave Citrix and go to VMware, and there's a lot of hurt feelings, and even going to other players in the industry, and there was a sense of a lot of competition and anger, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like the early days of the PGA and Live thing. But
Correct.
now you see them starting to come together and be like, hey,
Yeah.
you're just chasing your own fortunes and your own destinies. But we have to pull together to save the sport, right?
Right.
And that's the
Absolutely.
same thing. And we
Absolutely.
were both
And-
at an event last week, and
Yeah.
it is one big EUC family. That,
Correct.
the name on the badge changes, but all the people are there.
Oh yeah, and that's what I told our customers at Ferroque Systems, our team members, is like, we are the enablers. We have to actually, help our customers to continue to leverage the technology, being if it's Microsoft, Citrix, VMware, they all have a place. They all have their use cases, right? And it's up to us to give that best experience to our consumer. As long as we do that, I think that the pie of this EUC business, the industry, it's going to continue to get bigger, and everyone will have a bigger share. Right?
Yeah, you mentioned VMware, Microsoft, Citrix. It's not an either-or thing. Most
Right.
likely, it's all
It's
three
all,
of those.
yeah,
and
it's
probably some
very
more.
intertwined, right? It's very, very intertwined. And that's, again, it goes back to deliver the best experience, right? When we're in the experience business, and an old beauty place like this, really gives you that experience. And it's nothing until you come and you actually experience it. You don't understand, right? Watching it on TV is one thing.
Yeah.
You're not gonna see, you're not gonna experience the natural beauty of it, the challenge, the difficulties, and the experience you have in the clubhouse. All of that is hard to it's hard to imagine, right, until you're here. And so obviously that those of you who always wonder, because we have the same last name, Calvin and I, we're actually not related. But I'm pretty sure that one point or the other, maybe our ancestors was.
A few generations back,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah.
But he's born in the United States. I'm Canadian, so I'm the international side. He's the American side. We're gonna ask you the question: what do you think? Who's gonna win the cup?
Well, I would say statistics have it a little bit in the United States' favor. But as I look at who's currently in the running for the teams, right? There's a lot of big name players on both sides.
Yeah.
And interestingly, as we were talking about, Live Golf has taken from both international as well as American teams, so that and they won't have a chance to participate in this based on how this is run. So that shakes things up a little bit, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to a close match. I'd love nothing more than to see it go down to the 12th match on singles on Sunday. That would be
amazing. That would be amazing. So September 24th to 29th. Mark your calendar. Come and join us at the famous Royal Montreal Blue Course on the 11th hole. This is where Ferroque Systems is going to be, and look forward to having you join us here. And thank you very much, Calvin, for joining us today. We're gonna go hit the links.
Yep, go experience it.
Yeah, and
like you said.
hopefully I don't embarrass myself as a
Same.
host. I can definitely tell you where not to hit it.
Okay.
How about that?
Fair enough.
All right.
Fair enough. Let's
Thank
see
you
if I
so
can be
much.
coached.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.